And today is a really cool topic that I want to cover. It's something that has kind of transformed the way that I've thought about things and how I've dealt with a lot of the events in my life and there's the day-to-day things, but also how this thing, which I'll tell you in a minute, has really helped me in a lot of business decisions and kind of bigger relationships. So what I'm talking about, what we're going to talk about today, is the paradigm of the competitive versus the collaborative. So you'll hear about me talk about this a lot, the competitive versus the collaborative. So what exactly does that mean? For me, when I used to operate, and throughout my entire 20s, I was basically always in the idea that I was super competitive. So I was almost completely polarized in this competitive mind state. I always had to come to a situation like I need to beat this person, I need to dominate this person, I need to show them that I'm better. Now, as I'll dive into more of the nuances, that's not always necessarily a terrible thing, especially for some guys. And when you're dealing with things like sports or certain other art forms, there may be a benefit. As a super fat squirrel, there's a squirrel running over here, super fat. There's certain things that it might be beneficial to be competitive in, but for the most part, you're going to get way more out of life if you can shift yourself into the mindset of being collaborative. So some of the ways in which this will help you will be in your overall just kind of approach to life. You'll be much happier. I was, throughout my 20s, like I said, man, I was completely competitive. So I was like always like in just a ton of tension, and it was kind of my fault because I knew that I was like kind of overdoing it with the competitiveness, but I felt like I needed that as a kind of like impetus to keep me motivated. I was doing a lot of bodybuilding. I was doing a lot of like personal development stuff, coming from a place of doing really bad things, right? Being completely screwed up and doing a lot of really bad things. And I'll talk about these throughout, other videos, but that's besides the point for this one. The point is that I was shifted all to one side. And what I realized looking back on it now is that a lot of times when you're in that super competitive mind state, you may need it for a period of a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, but over time you need to shift, because what will happen is when you stay in that super competitive mind state, you will then bypass all these opportunities. So people that you could engage with, people that might be able to teach you something, people that you might be able to network with, people that you might be able to make a business relationship with, people that you might be able to engage in an intimate relationship with. You're pushing them all aside because you're viewing them as competitive. And I was viewing everyone as competitive, like personal relationships, like intimate relationships, people in the gym, people walking down the street, people on the internet, like everyone. I was like, how can I be better than that person? How can I beat this person out? How can I, figure out a way to do it better? And like, it's just really a super toxic kind of mindset to always be in. So now that I've kind of transitioned myself, I've kept certain elements of that competitiveness. I don't think that it's ever a good idea to completely just be like, all right, screw that, none of that, because it adds a lot of kind of fire to your life. But when I do the breakdown and I tell people, it's probably like an 80% collaborative, like 20% competitive now, whereas before it was like probably 90% competitive. So you always want to keep a little bit of that edge, because it'll enable you to break through certain times. Sometimes you just have to get stuff done. Sometimes there are people that you actually may need to beat out, whatever the case is. And in certain professions or certain sports, like that might be more of a factor than others. But really, really realizing that by staying in this competitive mind state all the time, you're pushing people away, and really more importantly, you are missing out on a lot of relationships and potentially cool experiences that you could have. So I think one of the reasons why it's like this is a lot of times if you look at it from the time we're brought up, you look at a lot of the video games that we play, you look at a lot of the movies that we watch and the TV shows that we watch and the stories that we were read to as a kid, and it's always like us versus them, or it's always the good guy versus the bad guy. It's always the superhero versus the evil villain. It's always the the allies versus the axes. There's always that polarization between the good and bad. And I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but in modern day life, that doesn't exist. It's not polarized like that. Like, it's not just black and white, like I'm good, you're bad, this person needs to be killed, you know what I mean, or this person needs to be taken out, right? It's humans work best when there's that synergy. When some people do things really well in this field, right? Other people are more analytical and they're over and they do this really well, and then these people are super creative, these people are super good at speaking, these people are super good at writing, people are interested in different things, and we all come together into society and civilization, and that's what makes the human race really so successful, is we're able to keep that synergy with everyone together. And then, so transitioning back to when you're thinking super competitive, you're basically saying, fuck that, I don't want to, have anyone else. I want to be the best at everything. And that too is like, it's just unrealistic. Like, you can't be the best at everything. I don't want to sound super pessimistic or a downer, but it's like, if you work 8 hours per day, realistically, you probably only have a couple hours. You can't do, my point is, you can't do that many things in your week to week life, right? You might be able to pick one or two things that you have as like hobbies or side projects that you could really focus on. So to think that you can sit there and just do everything and be the best at everything, it's just unrealistic. You don't have enough time. Even if you had 24 hours per day to dedicate to that goal, it's still not enough. And that's been a hard thing for me to realize too, is you don't need to be the best at everything. You want to pick the things that you're. All right, so I'll just finish that real quick. I had a phone call that was kind of interesting. I didn't know who it was, and I was like, fuck it, I'll pick it up. And anyway, cut the video, restart it, and I'll finish here real quick. In summary, what I just want to say is just start to realize where you're being overly competitive, where you think that you are potentially kind of closing yourself off. Because again, the competitiveness with the contraction, right? You're kind of usually very contracted when you are in this competitive all the time. And then the more that you get into it, a lot of times you're just pushing these relationships away because you're so focused or so in the zone of, I need to be the best all the time. So I encourage you to start thinking about these things, and I guarantee from my own personal experience, and this has been very hard for me to do because I was so locked into the whole just like warrior mentality. And again, the competitive warrior mentality, there's a big crucial point in a lot of guys' lives, and women as well, but especially guys early on in their early 20s, where it might make sense for them to really hammer a lot of these things. But at a certain point, you have to kind of evolve past that and realize that in order for you to continue to progress, you have to become more collaborative. And it was really hard for me to do, and I'm still working on it. But I can tell you this for a fact, that once I've done this, a lot of my relationships have opened up. I've been able to connect with people, whereas before I would just push them away. So I really encourage you to do that, and you will begin to see, as you open up and you become this more expansive, collaborative mindset, that you will be able to draw people in instead of pushing them away. And the more you can draw people in, you never know when that right person, when that right relationship is going to come in, and it'll just take you to the next level. So some encouraging words on stuff to think about. And I got to run right now because I got to go hop on another video call. And I'll try to get a better mic for coming up the next couple days. But it was great talking with you guys. Take these ideas to heart. I love making these videos. I think they're helpful. They're helpful to watch. I watch a lot of these personal development videos, and hopefully I can impart the knowledge to you guys, and you can use it and fuel your lives, and we can all get back together. So until next time, I love all you guys, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. Take care, guys.